on the board, I found very interesting, and the statement simply is, faith always affects behavior. Say it again. Faith always affects behavior. What do you guys think about that?
I believe that.
Because it's the faith that you have, it does determine on how you feel. And if you have little faith, then your behavior is always going down.
What are, if you will, some faith-based behaviors? So when you think about faith, and if faith always affects behaviors, what are the type of behaviors that come about because of faith?
Peace.
Okay?
It may not be yeah, when you're in the middle of a storm and you're not sure how you're going to get through it, you know that all things work together for the good of those who love God and called according to His purpose. So you know God has a plan, and so you're not going to worry about it.
Okay.
That doesn't mean you don't do anything. If God tells you to do something, you do it. But that's what I would say.
What other behaviors are indicative of faith, a life lived by faith?
Well, so it depends on what kind of faith. There are different types of faith. But I'm assuming you're asking in regard to maybe church behavior or lifestyle behavior.
Sure.
Okay, so in terms of lifestyle behavior, we believe that God is going to do what He said He's going to do. Therefore, we have a certain type of relationship with Him, and we behave like we have a relationship with Him. And then also we trust that He's going to do the things that He's going to do. So we have faith that things are going to work out in our behalf, like she was saying in terms of Romans 8:28.
Okay. Anybody else?
Kind of like when he says that, we have two kind of faiths. We have faith in ourselves, and then we have faith in God. But we tend to want to put more faith in what we can do than what God can do. That's what what it says. Faith is believing in what you can't see. We tend, that flesh part of us still want to say that I gotta believe in what I can do. I can see this. I can do this. Not that you step back and let God do it for you. Because we don't see God, and I tell them a lot of times, God kind of slow. We be wanting that stuff to come on right now. And God said, as He said, when He created everything, He said, a day is like 1,000. So, but we don't get that. And I think that's some of, with our faith. We don't have faith to wait. And to me, that's a big part of faith, to be able to sit there and just wait on God.
In terms of the Bible, some of our foundational stories, what are some of the archetypes that we notice in biblical terms of faith? So who are some of the characters or the people in the Bible that we've learned about over the years, that we've learned about, especially in our formative years, we learned about a lot of them, that demonstrate or take action with their faith? Who are some of those people? Abraham. So tell me a little bit about Abraham and what actions or what occurred with him that made or seemed faithful.
So Abraham and Sarah were elderly.
Okay.
And without children. They were childless. And Abraham was told that they were gonna have children, he was gonna be the father of many nations, and Sarah laughed, and he not only did he believe that that was gonna occur, he even left his land, went to a foreign land, is that it?
It is.
Left his, what he was comfortable with, his environment, perhaps even family members, and did what God told him to do without murmuring, like we sometimes do.
Book of Hebrews also, it points to a bunch of them, but when I think of Abraham, I always think of the fact that he took his son there and was like, what you gonna do?
Yeah.
That's a big one for me.
So Abraham, and yes, Hebrews 11 is a great chapter if you really want to look at those different characters. Abraham, I think, is an interesting character. I'm glad you brought him up because not only does he form an archetype of faith, but he forms an honest archetype of faith. In other words, sometimes we think in terms of extremes. Everything is one way. It's either black or it's white. And even though the presentation of the Word of God comes off that way, the reality of our humanity does not. And so although Abraham is faithful, and we remember him because he went up to the mountain and he was willing to sacrifice his son, there are also instances in his history that we see that maybe he wasn't as trusting and as faithful as he should have been. Does anybody have any examples of that?
She ain't my wife.
Oh.
Right. Exactly. And so he's traveling, I want to say he was in Egypt, and they asked him about his wife. And for fear of his life and the danger that may come, if he said, yeah, that's my wife, he lies. Mm-hmm. Or at least he denies her to that extent or that relationship. And he does it because there's a self-preservation that kicked in right there. And so we actually see kind of a broken or a wavering of his faith or trust in God. And so the reason that I bring that up is because when we're talking about faith, we have to talk about faith in realistic terms that are meaningful for us as humans. Yes, your faith should not waver. Yes, your faith should always be whole and trusting in God. Yes, you should believe in God, even if it is radical, even if it's amazing, even if it's awe-inspiring and nobody else seems to believe. You ought to trust God. But the reality is sometimes we're going to fail in faith. And I bring that up because I don't want anybody to fail in faith and think, well, Reverend King said, we always got to be faithful and it drive you away. The point is not to drive you away. The point is to ensure that you recognize that sometimes we're going to fail. The key is that the failure is not final. That those moments where our faith wavers, we get it back on track. Yeah. That we're reminded of our relationship with the Lord, and that we go to Him to ensure that we reconnect, reestablish, and figure out what we need to do to deepen our trust and our reliance on Him. Tonight, we're going to talk about Mark 9. We're going to start at the 14th verse. Just a broad overview of the discussion topic of faith. What we're going to see is we're going to notice an issue with a man's son, family issue, in which he is seeking some comfort from. He sought it in many different ways, and ultimately he finds Jesus. Jesus is able to help him, and it's premised upon the faith. What I want us to focus on tonight, and some of the things that I want you to look at as we're going along, and some things you might want to jot down, is I want you to look at the people involved in this particular narrative. Right? I want you to note the who of this particular narrative. Because it's very important when we're reading the Bible to figure out the who. Who's in the text, who's speaking, who it's speaking to, and why they're speaking. A lot of what we get out of interpreting the Word of God speaks to the who, right? And so tonight I want you to notice the various characters that are presented because their presentation is meaningful to the overall presentation that Mark is making on tonight. And so it says this, I'm reading from the King James Version again. I'm in verse 14, Mark 9. And when he came to his disciples, he saw a great multitude. Write that down. Who? Multitude. That's part of the who. The multitude. About them. Also write down disciples. That's part of the who. And the scribes. That's part of the who. Questioning with them. And straightway all the people, when they beheld him, you might want to also write down Jesus, because he's part of the who too, were greatly amazed, and running to him, saluted him. And he asked the scribes, what questions ye with them? And one of the multitude answered and said, Master, I have brought unto thee my son, which hath a dumb spirit. After wheresoever he taketh him, he teareth him, and he foameth, and gnasheth with his teeth, and pineth away. And I spake to thy disciples that they should cast him out, and they could not. He answered him and said, O faithless generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I suffer you? Bring him unto me. And they brought him unto him, and when he saw him, straightway the spirit teared him, and he fell on the ground, and wallowed foaming. And he asked his father, how long is it ago since this came unto him? And he said, of a child. And oftentimes it had cast him into the fire, and into waters to destroy him. But if thou canst do anything, have compassion on us, and help us. Jesus said unto him, if thou canst believe, all things are possible to him that believeth. You might want to write that down as a key verse. And straightway the father of the child cried out, and said with tears, Lord, I believe. Help thou mine unbelief. Then Jesus saw that the people came running together. He rebuked the foul spirit, saying unto him, Thou dumb and deaf spirit, I charge thee, come out of him, and enter no more into him. And the spirit cried, and rent him sore, and came out of him. And he was as one dead, insomuch that many said, He is dead. But Jesus took him by the hand, and lifted him up, and he arose. And when he was come into the house, his disciples came, asked him privately, Why could not we cast him out? And he said unto them, This kind can come forth by nothing but prayer and fasting. So some of the things that's going on, and some of the who that we need to focus on in this particular situation, is that a crowd had formed, and the crowd had formed based upon some questions that had come about due to an inability of the disciples to exorcise a spirit out of a young man. This spirit was vexing this young man to the extent that his entire life was consumed by this particular chronic issue. Not just his life, but the life of his family. One of the things that we realize is that whenever we're affected by something, it doesn't just affect us, but it affects people around us. And so when we do or don't live with faith, it has an effect on our children, it has an effect on our community. To not be cognizant of that is kind of irresponsible, because your actions don't go unnoticed, unchecked. They have consequences that are real and lifelong. And so we have to be very cognizant of that fact, right? And so this issue consumed his family. His father was able to enumerate the various things that occurred based upon this particular spirit entering in and out of this young man. He said that it vexed him to the point that he throws himself into the fire and into the floods. And so really what he's describing is a very dangerous situation that has troubled him for a very long time. It says since he was a child. And not only him, but it had bothered his entire family. So what do you think is the mental state of this particular individual when he's come and he's probably talked to a whole lot of different people? He's come to these disciples who he's heard have had the ability to do great and marvelous things. What do you think was his condition or his mental state or the state of his heart when it all failed? Huh?
He's desperate.
He's desperate. What does that mean when you say desperate?
There's a sense of urgency to find a solution because he's exhausted what he may perceive as any other resource that he thought would help.
He's desperate. He's exhausted his resources. Now, have any of us ever been desperate?
Not to that extent, but yeah.
What are some of the things that we do when we're in a desperate situation?
We make bad decisions.
Do that.
We make poor decisions, right? Because we're so desperate to alleviate ourselves of whatever's burdening us, whatever's burdening our family, that we make some really, I like what Sister Liz said, stupid decisions, right?
High risk.
Yeah.
We don't think about the consequences of what's going to happen. You know, we just thinking that I get out of this, then you look back, I got out of that. This is worse now.
Right. And oftentimes, we could have avoided so much pain, so many issues, so many problems, had we made the proper decisions in the first place, even when they are tough decisions. Now, I cannot imagine how desperate this man is, because I have never been in this particular situation, right? But I know people who have been in circumstances where they can't feed their children, and so there's a moral decision that they have to make. Do I steal to provide? Do I? Right? In the course of my job, I work for the probation department. I have the opportunity to go and evaluate programs in our community. And so what I do is I talk to staff at those programs, but I also talk to some of the clients who participate in the services. And one time I had an opportunity to talk to a gentleman, and what he told me about the organization that helped him, he said that they were helpful because they ensured that he did not recidivate, commit another crime. Because one day he didn't have any money and his family was hungry. And he said, I know what skills I have. And he was contemplating using the skills that got him locked up in the first place in order to provide for a family. That's desperate. I'm willing to go back for him. That's desperate. I'm willing to undo all of the work that I've done to get out because my family is in trouble. That's desperate. These are real situations, right? When we talk about the Bible, we're not just talking about stuff that happened, a couple millennia ago. We're talking about real people that have real situations that have applicability today. But he found a source that didn't require him to victimize anybody in order to meet that particular need. And that's the point, is that there are other opportunities and options that we have to take advantage of. And the main one being the Lord. But what happens when we seek the Lord through his servants and they're able to help us?
And just like you said, you're desperate to feed your family. I come in here on Sunday morning and walk up there and ask, can you help me? And they said, we don't have anything for you. Now, I'm at the church. And I figured, this is, if I'm going to get any help, this is where I'm supposed to get it.
Yeah.
And they telling me, or they take me in the back and they say, well, then they want to run me through the third degree.
Yeah.
Well, what do you need this for? Where's your family? Why you don't have anything? Not that point of that I just come in and I ask for something and you say, okay, he's hungry. You give him something. We got the whole third degree, and then at the end, let me go and talk to the pastor and a couple of deacons. I don't really think he needs nothing. I've been to that point. Like I was at the hamburger stand, and the guy come up there and he said, can you help me out with 50 cents to get a hamburger? And you look at I've been this size all my life. And the guy was, I said, what need you, man? You trying to help me get hamburgers. That's that appearance that he didn't look like he needed any help. But that wasn't for me to judge him, And I think, like you said, that becomes a part of some of what we're talking about, I think, is that we want to judge somebody by their appearance or by their outlook instead of just saying, God, if they come and ask for help, we're supposed to help them. And if they're not sincere with it, God will take care of that. It's not our job to, but, and I think we've seen that.
Yeah.
So you're saying as a church, we should have more faith that God is going to manage that situation, and for us to do what we think God would have us do.
I've seen it a lot. I believe that just like at my Well, I still help at the food bank at Fellowship Church in Manteca. And, you know, and we do it once a month, and I go help them go to the place and shop for food, then we fix up so many boxes. And to see those people come there, now we just do it once a month, but we have about 30 boxes. And you see people lined up out there. We say we're going to open the doors at 5 o'clock. People be out there at 2 o'clock. And you like you said, and they be looking forward to this. And you, like you said, you know, how are we to judge? You know, we had one they had a business meeting, and one of them said, well, you know that at food bank, I see some of them people down there, man, they driving better cars than me. That don't have anything to do with it. You know, you find out some of them, somebody brought them down there in that car. But that still don't have anything to do with it. They're down there to get a box. Then I believe that they need a box. I just don't believe that you're going to come down there, you know, nobody's trying to be that, come down there and get a box like that.
Right.
See, when I go down there, I go and get boxes, but I take it and give it to other people in my family that needs it.
I've done that.
Exactly. So you don't really know why those people are there.
No, that's what I'm saying.
And what's going on.
And you see some people down there, I mean, waiting, but you see some people down there that are really in need. I mean,
When I go and
they
get groceries,
thank
I
you.
clean out my cabinets and my freezer so I can put new groceries in and not take what we ain't used for the month and give it away.
And that's true. So it is not for us to determine or to judge what the need or the desperation is. It's us to be prayerful and to be mindful of what God has us to do, or He's put us in position to benefit and better those individuals. So let's look at the scene. Let's look at the people that are there. So when He came to His disciples, Jesus, He had just come from Transfiguration. So He comes to His disciples and saw a great multitude about them, and the scribes questioning them. Who are the scribes? What is their role? What do we know about these people known as scribes?
Supposedly they were the ones who knew the Bible.
Okay.
You know, they were the ones that were supposed to, you know, if you had a question, they was the ones that were supposed to give the answer. They knew the law.
Okay.
The believers.
There were individuals who knew the law, right? They knew that they knew the law.
Yeah.
They had the technical expertise and knowledge of the law, right? What do we see, or what's characteristic of them in their interaction with Jesus? What have we seen in other biblical passages as their interaction with Jesus? Is it amicable? Is it friendly? Is it somewhat hostile? What kind of relationship do they seem to have with Jesus as we've read through other Gospels?
They didn't care for Jesus.
They're trying to trick you.
Okay, they didn't care for Jesus, and they're trying to trip him up, right? And I would see that this would be a beneficial moment for them, because what they have is disciples who have failed, which means that this Jesus man can't be as powerful as he says he is. He can't possibly be the Son of God like you say he is, if the people who he's tasked with carrying the message and who he's supposedly empowered can't get this done. So they're questioning. They're questioning the legitimacy of the disciples as an extension of the legitimacy of Jesus Christ. Right? Have you ever failed and somebody questioned who you are? Christians don't act like that. Christians don't talk like that. I thought you said he was a Christian.
I heard somebody say
I thought you said you was a Christian. Right? It seems that the moment that we as individuals, human as we are, and saved and Christian as we are, fail or are not able to accomplish a task that other people think we should be able to, it seems like those people become the deepest biblical scholars. Or all of a sudden you're at the tribunal for the depth of your Bible knowledge about what it means to be saved and sanctified and filled with the Holy Ghost, because Christians should act like that, and Christians should do this, and Christians should love, and Christians should be this, and Christians should be that. And I I sit back humored at times because I'm like, well, are you a Christian? Because you seem to know a lot about this Christianity thing, allegedly, right? And that's what the scribes were doing. They were trying to delegitimize the Lord Jesus Christ. And they were trying to do it in such a way that he was publicly humiliated, right? Note again, the multitude is there. So the reason that Mark mentions the multitude is because he wants you to know it was a lot of people, not just these primary characters that were focused on, such as Jesus, the disciples, and the scribes. There were people around, right? It wasn't so much that we're trying to delegitimize Jesus in private, in closed session. Most of these disagreements, if you will, occurred in public, right? Because we want publicly folks to know that you are not the Messiah. You are not who you say you are, right? Today, public demonstrations tend to get a lot more coverage. There's a lot of public demonstrations going on that have a lot of heat on people based on the question of legitimacy, right? Very interesting time to be teaching this. Based on the question of legitimacy, right? But back in the day, news traveled a little slower. So I want to maximize this message by ensuring that I have a lot of people around who can take this message with them wherever they're going to travel. That's why I don't do these private conversations. I do this public thing because I want this scandal of Jesus being illegitimate to travel around the known world. Right? So we're going to do this very publicly. Now, I'm going to put a note and a pin in this. As Christians, we have to be careful about how we do public discipline. Because you don't want to hurt people. You want to make sure people are helped. And there are times when, yes, you need to say something publicly. You need to make it known. You need to make a strong affirmation about who Jesus Christ is. And so, yes, you need to make it known publicly. But there's sometimes we can just be quiet and say stuff to people in private. And that private conversation will help them a lot more than us trying to out them or try to put their business in the street to try to prove that we're right and they're wrong. That really is not the purpose of what we ought to be doing. And these people who were God-fearing should have known that, right? So watch this. And straightway all the people, when they beheld him, were greatly amazed, and running to him, saluted him. And he asked the scribes, what questions ye with them? What is it that you have? What is it that you want to know? Verse 17, and one of the multitude answered and said, Master, I have brought unto thee my son, which hath a dumb spirit. Right? Then he tells him what goes on with the spirit, right? He taketh them, he teareth them, he foameth, he gnasheth, he pineth, all of these things. And then he says, the problem is your disciples could not bring the spirit out. Here is Jesus' response. O faithless generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I suffer you? Bring him unto me. Tell me about Jesus' mind state. Tell me about this particular statement from the Lord Jesus Christ. What does it say to you? What does this very strongly worded kind of rebuke say to you?
That he didn't have faith that they can bring it out of him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it didn't come out.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
He was chastising them.
You chastising me? Okay.
So, you just asked us to make sure we know who's talking and who they talking to.
Here we go. Uh-huh.
Mhm. So let's look at it again just to make sure. That's what we're doing in English right now. We're just studying sentences. And who is the subject and who is the object and where's the verb? So I'm going back to that.
The multitude, the disciples, and the scribes.
Okay. So you said it was the multitude, the disciples, and the scribes. So you're suggesting that Jesus, when he says, "O faithless generation," was talking to everybody.
That's what it sounds like to me. But,
Everybody?
Well, he's talking to who asked the question. That's what I'm going back to look for.
well, I guess he couldn't be talking necessarily to the multitude, because of course he would know where their faith is. But he certainly knows about the disciples and what the knowledge of the scribes.
You said he wouldn't know what their faith is, the multitude?
I said he would know, but perhaps that's
Okay.
really not his focus is not on them, it's on those that he's been teaching
Mhm.
and those who have been taught,
Okay.
the scribes.
Okay.
Right.
So this is how I would do it. In 17, it says, and one of the multitude answered and said, Master, I have brought unto thee my son, which hath a dumb spirit. And wheresoever he taketh him. So I'm trying to identify who the,
That's a spirit.
right? He carrieth him. Okay, keep on. Let's see, find the way. And I spake to thy disciples, that's the Father saying that I talked to the disciples, they couldn't cast him out. And he answered, and that now they're going back to Jesus answered, and say, O faithful generation, how long? So the last person who asked the question was the Father. He's in a group, and the group consists of the multitude and the scribes, and his disciples are there somewhere. O faithful generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I suffer you? Bring him to me, bring the boy to me. And they brought him, and they being, saw him. Huh? Yeah, I know, but you gotta look in front and behind to see where. I'm trying to understand. It's like we're right here, right?
Yeah.
We're talking, right?
Yeah.
You said some things, you said some things, she said some things, and you said some things. I want to know what Jesus said, who he was responding to.
So-
the generation would have been the multitude of the people.
Okay.
Generation.
Okay. Generation.
Generation.
Okay. So who he is talking to, his response is to a man, but who he is talking about is everybody.
The whole generation. None of y'all believe.
I want everybody to hear this. O faithless generation, how long will I suffer with you?
How long will I be here?
How long do I have to be here dealing with stuff that you ought to be able to deal with because you should have the faith to deal with it? Because I told you that if you have the faith the size of a mustard seed, you could tell this mountain, be thou removed. He said a little faith can do a lot. And I don't understand how it is.
All of y'all out here, y'all don't have enough faith to.
You all know the law. So you've seen what the power of God is in the book. You know what the history said about Abraham, about Isaac, and about Jacob. You know what happened when Moses came on the scene. You saw the power of God over Daniel's life. You know what went on with Jonah. You know God. You know the book. And you don't believe that things can happen by faith, that he's able to do exceedingly and abundantly? Disciples, you have walked with me, talked with me, and I've sent you out, and you've boldly gone. And you don't know how to deal with this? And multitude. Some of you I've seen before. I've healed some of you. Some of you were there when I fed the 5,000 and the 4,000. And you mean to tell me and nobody recognizes that with faith, oh, you ever been fed up? You ever taught something to somebody and you taught them over again and then you taught them over again and you got to the point where I'm just, Now, this is what's interesting. Here's the interesting part, right? This is not the usual ideal of Christ that we have. When we talk about Christ, we talk about him in terms of grace and mercy and love and forgiveness. We like that stuff because that stuff is to our benefit. It's rare when people are having discourse about Jesus, at least in some of the public settings that I've been, that the discourse turns to the reality of faith and sin and repentance. A lot of it is on the, he gonna bless you, he gonna bring you out, and the feel good stuff. And that's great, because all of that is true. But what is equally true is that there is I won't call it a limit.
expectation that you are going to be walking in His will.
Yeah. And at the end of that expectation period, there's going to be a separation of folk who did and who were faithful and who believed Him and trusted Him, and it was counted for them unto righteousness, and folk who didn't. Even though they were there in the multitude. Even though they bore witness to the greatness of God. And this speaks volumes, especially to us as a church. Because there are people who sit in pews and witness the glory and greatness of God, but don't participate because their faith is limited. But can I get some hope? Because He said after all of that, bring them to me. Because apparently I need to show you guys how faith works. Meaning I'm willing to still work with you a little bit. There's still some grace, there's still some love that I have put. Bring it to me. Somebody bring the baby to me. Bring the baby to me. Right? So, and they brought him, and when he saw him, straightway the spirit teared him, and he fell on the ground and wallowed foaming. Why did that occur when they brought the boy?
Because I'm going to get my last bit in.
I'm going to get my last bit in. What does that say about the spirit that was in him?
He knew something about that happening.
He knew something was about to happen based upon the person who he was standing before.
When you felt the spirit.
Even an evil spirit recognizes they're in the presence of greatness. Scribes over here trying to trip me up. They don't want to recognize the presence of greatness. Disciples have seen it. As a matter of fact, I just came from Transfiguration, and some of them saw it up close and personal. Multitude has been aware of it. But it seemed like the only person recognizing it, behaving like it, is this evil spirit. Right? And yeah, I'm going to get my last one in because I recognize that when Christ enters the room, when Jesus is present, whatever is in His presence changes. I said this before, good or bad, it changes. Right? Some unto righteousness, some not. In this particular case, this boy knew he knew it was over. Time had winded up. Right? He was about to finish his course. Look what he says. How long is it ago since he came into him? He said, of a child, and oftentimes he cast him into the fire waters to destroy him. But thou canst do anything, have compassion on us, and help us. Jesus said unto him, if thou canst believe, all things are possible to him that believe. You don't take anything else from the night. All things are possible to him that believe. All is a qualifying word. It is all encompassing, all extending. It has no boundaries. It has no terminus. All means anything. You go out there, walk on water right now, if you believe. Oh, they used to do that. No. What he just said was that all things are possible if you believe. You go out there, heal some folk if you believe. You know, always has humored me that I've watched some televangelists that they have them handkerchiefs with the blessed handkerchiefs and the blessed oil, and they just be at the stand, they just, and folk fall out. And I thought to myself, why don't you just go to the hospital? Why don't you go where the sick people are instead of them coming to you? Why don't you just go to the hospital? Don't you just walk through Africa? Just take a hike through Africa. Because if we have enough faith, all things, that's what he says, all things are possible. And straightway the father of the child cried out and said with tears, Lord, I believe. Help thou mine unbelief. That is one of the most powerful statements I've seen in a while. What does he mean? I believe, but help my unbelief.
Help him to not have doubt.
Okay.
And help him to where he can believe and have faith.
Okay.
I want to believe.
Okay.
And the second belief is give me the power of belief.
Okay. So when it comes to faith, there's a couple schools of thought. There is the faith that's necessary to grab hold of the repentant gift that God gives. In other words, I believe that He's God, and I believe that He can. It's a very foundational and fundamental faith. It is what gives us the opportunity to acquire that saving grace. Fundamental. But then there's also gifting of faith. And gifting of faith goes a little bit further than that. Gifting of faith extends the abilities. It's the walking on water. See, when Peter walked on water, it was because he had been convinced beyond doubt that no matter what occurred, Jesus had it as a deep-seated faith that extends beyond the natural order. Right? He was gifted with that kind of faith. When Jesus said, "Thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God," that was a necessary faith to believe that a change could come over him based upon who Jesus was. Simple faith. Peter. Right? And so this man is saying, hey, listen, I hear what you're saying. He probably witnessed some of his miracles. I would imagine that he was knowledgeable about who Jesus was just based upon the inference that he took this boy to the disciples to heal them. It tells me that he had some knowledge of what Jesus. So I have knowledge. I have knowledge that, and my knowledge is leading me to hope that this thing is possible. But wherever I might not be adequate in my faith, help me in that area. I believe that this is something that we ought to do on a regular basis. Because the truth of the matter is, as much as we believe in God, and as much as we believe that Jesus died and that He rose from the dead, and as much as we believe that He's coming back again, there are areas in our life that we have not turned over to Jesus Christ. Help me in the areas where I don't trust and believe. How do I know this? Because we worry about stuff that we cannot control and should not be worried about in the first place. And when I use the term worried in this context, I'm not talking about having consideration for things. I'm not talking about walking circumspect. I'm talking about you crying in the midnight hour about stuff over and over again and haven't discussed it with Jesus, haven't told Him all about it, haven't given it to Him, and you're trying to deliberate and do things yourself, and you're stressing yourself out. You having heart palpitations, and you having bad dreams, and you can't go to sleep at night because you're trying to fool around with something that's bigger than you, that you can't control. Help my unbelief. Help my unbelief that this situation that I'm in is going to be with me for the rest of my life. Because some of us think like that. I'm always going to be in this situation. I'm always going to be struggling. We can't see any other way. And we operate like there's no other way. Help me believe that I don't have to always be in this financial situation.
We always believe too that, like you said, we sit there and I need some more money. I can't pay them people tomorrow. And where it's gonna come from? Like you said, you sitting up there all night thinking about it. You're not making no money. You may well be asleep. You're not getting no money. I mean, you laying up there wide awake.
Creating another bill.
Scratching your head. How am I gonna pay this bill? I ain't got no money. But you may, like you said, if you got belief in faith, you may as well go ahead and go to sleep. You pray. You pray to God that He gonna work it out and go to sleep. And you wake up. You wake it up, but you laying there, like you said, you can't go print no money. If you don't believe.
Not really.
Well,
I'm sorry.
I know about something too, but you can't be. I guess like you said, you gotta have the faith. If you I pray that, okay, God gonna work this out. When you say, I prayed on it, then I gotta believe that God gonna work it out.
I believe it with him. Man, I've had arguments with people hundreds of times over in my mind. And then when I finally had the conversation with them, it wasn't even that deep. I stressed myself trying to contemplate how I was going to work it out. I need to say it like this. I mean, wait, no. Let me come. No, no. No.
That's kind of like, I mean, I guess today, just like while I'm having my stuff, I left home this morning before 9 o'clock. My brother been in a serious accident, and I just got power of attorney this past week. House note, 2 months behind. I just was able to get the power of attorney, so I was able to get his mail, that certified letter from Bank of America, and he ready to start foreclosure. Car and all this stuff. Anyway, he got the check, because they done told him the vehicle out. He needs the check. I got the check. So I go to the bank. I said, they ain't gonna do this. I said, I need for them to take this to pay the house notes and stuff. And make it short, I get there, when the bank open. First guy I give it to, we got to run this through the legal department. I'm scratching my head. I said, I don't know, legal department. They go bill. He said, wait a minute. He go over there and talk to somebody, they come back, make it short. I left out of there, I got there about 9, I left out at 11 o'clock. They done cashed the check, paid the house note, gave me the balance of the money. I was able to go to Antioch where he lived, but he's in the rehabilitation place now. I was able to go there and pay his water bill, but they were getting ready to turn the water off at his house. Do all of this stuff, like you said, but all last night, I'm sitting up there, I'm going to have to go in some of my money. I ain't got no money to go over there and see about him. I need to get my stuff. He should have had this stuff in better order than this. You know, but like you said, you know, at the end of the day, God done took care of everything. You know, the whole situation, I'm like you said, I'm not even stressing about this. And me and my daughter, she done called me and telling me that, you got power. I said, yeah, I gave you power of attorney. I said, but I still ain't got nothing to, I said, you know, I said, I'm going to have to go and get, but like I said, everything worked out.
Look at God. I feel like I almost feel like shot.
Yeah, you know, like you said, you know, it's one of them situations, because, like I said, he was actually lucky to be alive, you know, because the ambulance people and the people where they dispose of the vehicle, I think they disposed of it too soon, because they supposed to keep it for X amount of time. The lady at the wrecking yard told me, she said, well, we looked at him, we just figured he was. But like I said, he still can't talk, but this happened on the 18th of November.
Blessed, though.
And then, like I said, you know, just now getting where I've been able to, you know. But it's like you said, when you put your, you know, if you look back and look at it, well, you know, God going, but I'm around there trying to figure out.
That's it. That's it. God got you.
Yeah.
And there has to come a point where, despite all of my belief, Lord, I need you to help the portions of my life where I'm struggling to believe. And so this is what occurs as we hurry to a close. Notice how he describes the way that the man said it. He said it with tears. You ever been that desperate? Right? When Jesus saw that the people came running together, he rebuked the foul spirit, saying unto him, Thou dumb and deaf spirit, I charge thee, come out of him and enter no more into him. And the spirit cried and rent him sore and came out of him. And he was as one dead, insomuch that many said, He is dead. But Jesus took him by the hand and lifted him up, and he arose. And when he was coming to the house, his disciples asked him privately, Why could not we cast him out? And he said unto them, This kind can come forth by nothing but prayer and fasting. I want us to just note something, that Jesus, the Bible says that the multitude come running. In other words, they came examining what was going on in this conversation. What I appreciate about this is Jesus does publicly this great miracle because he needed to rebuke publicly the whole situation or ideal that the scribes were trying to bring, even publicly. He wanted to show them not only is this young man healed of the spirit, but he's alive and he's well, right? I want you to notice something about this. Jesus started this conversation by addressing the scribes, right? And the person who comes forward is one of the multitude, right? Jesus has cast this ideal of this generation to step forward. There was one person who was willing to go to Jesus despite all of the odds. There was one person who, despite the most recent failure, the most recent heartache, and the most recent pain, was willing to look past all of that to go and be in the presence of the Lord, to describe the situation, and to get the help that he needed. He had an earnest spirit about what he wanted to change for his child. He wanted change for his child and for himself. He wanted peace that surpasses understanding. Peace from this lifelong kind of sentence that was associated with this spirit. And then the disciples asked a very poignant question. We tried. Jesus, why couldn't we do it? Why couldn't we do it? Jesus' response: this kind can come forth by nothing but prayer and fasting. What is fasting?
Where you set yourself a limit on eating and drinking like a certain amount of hours or days, and you use that time to pray.
Okay. So you take time away from stuff that is necessary, because eating is necessary. Kind of keep you alive, right? You take time away from what is necessary, and you give that time to God. It is a sacrifice of self for the purpose of connecting to God, for whatever reason. Right? He says that this thing right here, what was going on, this impassioned plea from this father, this depth of spiritual depravity, can only be conquered through sacrificing who you are and connecting to God. Meaning, y'all can't do this alone. You're not going to be able to do this without me. You need to recognize and stay connected to the source. And there's things in our lives we can't do without the Lord. Matter of fact, let me say it this way. We can't do life without the Lord. And it behooves us that if we're going to do life effectively, that we have faith. Because it is a powerful instrument for change and peace. Right? And faith is simply this. Right? It is a deep-founded trust that God is going to do what he said he's going to do. It's predicated upon the ideal that when he said that I know your expected end and my thoughts of you are good, that he was serious about that. That expected end was going to be glorious and a blessing. It's predicated upon the fact that he is all-powerful. Meaning not only does he have a plan, but he has every tool necessary and every resource at his disposal to bring that plan to pass. See, when we needed to be saved, he didn't just send somebody. He sent the very best because he knew that was necessary to bring about the change that we needed. And that's the same situation that goes on in our everyday life. That he has every resource. The Bible specifically says that we get new mercies day by day. I like when they say new mercies. But that means I'm not holdover from leftovers from yesterday. I need something fresh, a reviving, if you will, on a daily basis that only the Lord can bring. But watch this. Faith is a two-way street. It is not just God doing and doing and doing, but it is our deep and heartfelt commitment to live the life that's necessary to bring about the things God has commanded. It's a type of covenant, if you will. Right? It requires of us. We got to live right. We got to live like we know who God is. We got to do the stuff that he's called us to do. Because what we cannot expect from God is for him to just do when we haven't held up our end of the bargain. When he said husbands love your wives as Christ loves the church, he was serious about that. And you wonder why your family might be in disarray, or there may be things going on. Well, are you loving your wife as Christ loved the church? Are you holding up your end? Right? Because if you hold up your end, then you can have the peace knowing that God is going to do what he said he was going to do. Now, if you're not doing your part, you're not living your part.
How do you think, why you want to think God will do?
And that's what I tell my son, because he's so into sports and rodeo and stuff. I said, if you put as much time as you put into them sports to be on Team Jesus, you'll have all the victory. You worried about a championship, guess who ain't going? They didn't go to church. You.
I'm going to give this to you all. Just something for you to think about during your week. Look it over, fill it out. It's just some things for us to consider about belief and unbelief, some characters and some archetypes, if you will, from the Bible that you may want to take some time to review that may help you understand, again, that although we absolutely should have faith in all things, that sometimes we waver, but even when we waver, we need to get back to God. We need to get back connected. That means we need to continue to live the life that he's called us to live. That means we need to get connected to the communities that will hold us accountable to that life. Those are the type of stuff that we have to do in order to be the people that God called us. That's all I got. Any questions, thoughts, feelings, concerns?
You mentioned it, I love to read it, so you let me read Jeremiah 29,
Sure.
29:11. For I know my thoughts that I think toward you, saith the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end. That's what you just stated that. That's the words in the Bible.
That feels good in my spirit.
You said one of the ways that they taught us to remember this level of faith is one is that I believe that he is, I believe that he can, and I believe that he will.
All hearts and minds clear. As we close out, are there any prayer requests?
It's just one, me and my brother.
Well, my daughter, she starts her pre-college classes this month. So
Free college.
she's going to be out in San Francisco.